Hello, readers of Every Word, and welcome to Every Word 365. I'm your host, Christina Madsen. Today, we are reading Exodus 7 through 10. Oh, goodness. Time to talk about the plagues. Yes, I realize I sound very Midwestern in my accent when I say that word, but I know a lot of questions about why will come up through this part. I just encourage you to remember Isaiah 55, 8 through 9. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. I want to share something that was written by a reader from a previous group, that it's all about patience, and that's what we really have been reading about so far in our study. So this is from a reader, but I just think it's so good that I wanted to share it with you. We know that patience is a virtue. James 1:3 tells us the trying of your faith works patience. And if anyone's faith was tried, it was the Hebrew people and Moses, for sure. But patience is a challenge when there is no or little faith. When the Lord finally convinced Moses to go back to Egypt to save his people from slavery, he was not exactly received warmly. Of course, not by Pharaoh, but he also wasn't well received from the people he'd been assigned to rescue. Check out the Israelite foreman's response to Aaron and Moses in Exodus 5:21. The foreman said to them, "May the Lord judge and punish you for making a stink before Pharaoh and his officials. You have put a sword into their hands, an excuse to kill us." Do you remember reading that? And how did it make you feel? Because it really is so very negative, and the fact that they even use the word stink in there. Then again in Exodus 6:9, so Moses told the people of Israel what the Lord had said, but they refused to listen to any more. They had become too discouraged by the brutality of their slavery. It isn't hard to relate to the Hebrew slaves and their feelings here. I feel like we see that all the time. So discouraged, so downtrodden that it's hard to have faith. But because we know the whole story and what God has already spoken to Moses, we can see that this greater demand from the palace is merely an obstacle that they would overcome. Though we may not face as great a challenge of being a slave with a brutal master, we do have our own obstacles. We're also told what the Lord has said. Taking a lesson from the Israelites, I pray we don't remain discouraged. 'Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus. Those of us that have been through hard times and know that, I wish we could remember it better, because I still get discouraged and down in day-to-day life. Patience seems to be a recurring theme in what we've read so far. Would you agree? Noah spent 371 days with his family in a zoo inside an ark as they waited for the earth to dry. Abraham waited 100 years for his promised heir. Jacob worked 14 years to marry the woman he loved. Joseph sat in prison in a foreign land, hated and wrongfully accused of betrayal. Wow, I think that is so good. How are you at having patience? I know, tough question. Some people, it comes very naturally. It is considered one of the fruit of the Spirit, and we'll talk about later that fruit is singular, not plural. All 9 attributes are what we're supposed to have. We don't get to pick and choose. So just a great reminder to have patience, and to have patience through these readings. If they're tough for you to read, have patience. You definitely want to stick around for the ending. And here's a little insight about God sending Moses to convince Pharaoh to let his people go, all the while hardening Pharaoh's heart. He says that, I will harden Pharaoh's heart while you're trying to do this. And that's hard for some readers. So I'm including a link. Got Questions does a great job trying to explain that. And I know it's all super hard to understand, but remember that going through trials is considered a good thing in the Bible. Here's a couple of verses that point to that. We can rejoice too when we run into problems and trials, for we know that they help us develop endurance, and endurance develops strength of character, and character strengthens our confident hope of salvation. That is in Romans 5, 3 through 4. And I know this one pretty well, and I've said it a lot. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking in anything. Do you know the verse? That is James 1, 2 through 4. So maybe all of Moses' excuses made God know that Moses really needed some character building challenges. And that's why he's going through all that he's going through. What do you think of all the plagues? Pretty crazy, huh? Now, the link that I'm going to share about the plagues is going to go past today's reading because it's a breakdown of all of them. And so I just started it there. Obviously, you can read it later. You have a day off coming up. So it's a very good link, though, and it really does explain all of them. I've never had them memorized, so I can never bring all 10 to mind. But it's a great link with a lot of information in it. And I know many of you are struggling to stop at the end of our reading assignments and like to read ahead, which I love. Now, tomorrow is a rest day or a day to read any paper-clipped pages. And then the reading for January 22nd is Exodus 11 through 12. And I attach both tomorrow and the next day's pages for those of you who don't have their Bibles yet. And I would encourage you to read tomorrow's reflection and worship page. I'll be back on the 22nd, so even I try to give you a day off on your days off to really reflect and worship at least one time a week, not just reading and getting in every word, which is what we're doing. But if you're not taking time to reflect and worship, it could all be for naught. So be sure you take the time to do that. And I'll be back on the 22nd. Enjoy your break. And if you have some paper clips, happy reading.